Hi, we're the History Hikers. I'm Dries.
And I'm Jente.
And we are at Chateau Peyrepertuse, which is above us.
Well, yes, it's a 15-minute walk above us.
It's too misty, cloudy to see from below, so we're just taping the intro right here, and we'll take you on the hike. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good, I think.
Yeah, it's the biggest fortress of the Corbière region. It should be in surface area as big as Carcassonne.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's gonna be impressive. Let's check it out.
Believe it or not, but when we visited the castle, it was still summer. The very next day after we visited the castles at Las Tours, which was last week's video. The weather just completely shifted and gave us this eerie mist, giving off a very mysterious and atmospheric vibe. The entire environment around the castle has been kept as authentic as possible. This is why the path up to the castle is through this seemingly ancient forest where the trees have many smooth branches from the many hands that gripped it for support throughout the ages. This rocky, narrow and snaking path leading up to the castle's entrance is the same path that every person and animal had to use since the 13th century. The name Perepertuse derives from the Occitan Peyrepertuse, meaning pierced rock, which is a perfect description of the way the fortress is inserted into the rock. The castle extends along a limestone spur in the Corbière Massif in the Aude department in southern France. The castle is divided in three distinct parts: the older castle with its ring wall in the east, the newer Castel Sanyordi in the west, and the center ring wall connecting these two.
After entering the castle, we pass by the gatekeeper's lodge and continue up the stairs to reach the first ring wall and the courtyard behind it. The surrounding area was inhabited from the time of Roman occupation. In the 8th century, Charlemagne supposedly fortified the remains of an older Roman oppidum. The first mention of the castle dates to the 11th century, however. Bernard Taillefer, Count of Besalú, was in the Provence discussing the marriage of his son Guillaume when he drowned in the Rhône River. In his will, Guillaume inherited, among other things, the castles of Peyrepertuse, Quéribus, and Florence. These three castles have more or less the same history. The wall on our left has been impressively restored and has two open towers. It meets the wall on the right in a sharp point at the eastern tip of the castle. Wow. Wow. In the fog. On our right here, we have the living quarters for the garrison, which was built around the 15th or 16th century.
1096, Bernard III, Count of Besalú and Lord of Perepertuse, married the daughter of the Count of Barcelona. When Bernard died childless in the early 12th century, the county of Besalú passed on to his father-in-law, Berenguer of Barcelona. The Count of Barcelona, who would later also become the King of Aragon, would pass it on to his half-brother, the Viscount of Narbonne. This way the lords of Peyrepertuse became vassals of the Viscounts of Narbonne and the King of Aragon.
After visiting the latrine, we make our way over to the eastern corner tower, which originally consisted of 2 floors. On the top floor there stood a type of catapult named a pierrière in French.
We next make our way to the oldest part of the castle, the original donjon, with the chapel built next to it. Before entering the donjon, you might be able to notice a difference in stonework. Smaller stones were used at the bottom, while larger, better cut stones were used on top. These show the difference between the original 11th and 12th century castle construction and the 13th century remodeling. The donjon houses the residence of the governor on the first floor, as well as the original 11th century chapel. A cistern was also constructed in the French period, located in the round tower.
In 1209, Guillaume, Lord of Perepertuse, refused to submit to the crusading army, for which he was excommunicated. When in 1217 fortunes in the crusade were looking bleak, he would swear fealty to Simon de Montfort. Simon would die 1 year later and was succeeded by his son Amaury. Guillaume saw his fortunes turn once again and would rise up in rebellion against Amaury. The French king would soon meddle in the crusade, however, which would prove the end for Guillaume as Lord of Peyrepertuse.
The French King Louis IX had purchased the castle of Perepertuse from the King of Aragon in 1239, but would only actually own it a year later when one of his commanders conquered it. Perepertuse was by this time home to many Cathars who had fled to the castle from French-occupied lands. The siege only lasted 3 days, after which Guillaume had to surrender because of a lack of food.
After passing through the Donjon, we enter a large courtyard. This is the middle part of the castle. It clearly shows the importance Perepertuse had in the eyes of the French kings. The space was large enough to house a sizable army, and the remains of the buildings reflect this as well. This polygonal building would have had 2 levels. The ground floor was for the animals, while the top floor would have been used to store grain. There is also a natural basement which could store other foodstuffs.
The last and perhaps most impressive part of the castle is the second donjon, the Castel Sanyordi. Shortly after the capture of Peyrepertuse in 1240, the French king ordered his engineers to construct stairs up to the highest point of the rock. Here, at 800 meters altitude, they designed a keep equipped with modern buildings, which is so impressive that capturing it seems nigh impossible. The stairs Saint-Louis, named after the French king, are hewn from bare rock and end precariously at the cliff's edge. After years of wear from the many feet that went up and down, the stairs have been repaired to allow safer passage for visitors.
The Castel Sanyordi was clearly intended to be used as a comfortable dwelling for its residents. This is evidenced by the large windows with seats built into them. Remains of a fireplace have also been found. The stones are all meticulously cut, which indicated the level of precision that went into the building of this castle. In the donjon, 2 cisterns can be found, useful if the castle ever came under siege, as well as a chapel at its highest point. Years of border conflicts between France and Aragon would be settled with the Treaty of Corbeil in 1258. Perepertuse, which was originally built by the Counts of Barcelona against French incursions, would now be used in a French defensive formation against hostility from the south. Perepertuse is known as one of the 5 sons of Carcassonne, who together formed a nearly impenetrable line of fortifications along the French-Aragonese border. With the Treaty of the Pyrenees in 1659, the border moved even further south, which ended Perepertuse's military use. The castle was home to an army garrison until 1789, however, which is why the castle is in relatively good shape right now. This is where we would have a fantastic view.
Yeah, probably see right into Perepertuse, and the other side is the Mediterranean, and now we just see milk.
Milk. From these heights, the castle could oversee the surrounding landscape. Even the smallest speck of dust seen on the horizon would have been visible from Peyrepertuse. Because of the many castles and towers in the region, it has been calculated that a message could reach the seneschal in Carcassonne in around 3 hours. Of course, when there is a thick fog like we had, this isn't really possible. This was Peyrepertuse Castle. What do you think?
Was quite amazing. A little bit eerie with all the fog around.
Yeah, normally you should be able to have views up until Perepertuse Castle and
Up until the
magnificent
Mediterranean
surroundings. Yeah. Not today, but I think it's still beautiful. We'll come back when it's sunny someday. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's get on with the subjective, arbitrary castle score. I'm gonna give it a 9.
I'll second that. A 9 as well.
Yep. We had a brochure with info. There was also an audio guide you could follow if you wanted. Very much to see, of a lot to see. Very cool, nice restoration in parts. Yeah, pretty big.
Yeah, it's 300 square meters, so it's quite the surface area. There's a stupid bug bugging us.
Yeah. Damn bug. This was us, the history hikers from Perepertuse Castle. Until next time.
And in the meantime, like, subscribe, comment, all the good YouTube stuff if you like.
And yeah, on to the next hike. Bye.